Hey everyone, welcome to the Entrepreneurship Center. My name is Sarah Curtis and I'm the Community Program Coordinator here at the EC. I'm coming at you guys from the virtual hub today, and I just want to thank all of you for coming out on this Friday. It's super nice out and it's really great to just see all of you here. So Rocket Pitch is one of the many events that we offer here at the EC and is part of our mission to help students learn and apply entrepreneurial thinking. One of the most important aspects of Rocket Pitch is you. So as the audience, you all have an opportunity to play a part, whether that's just cheering on pitchers, providing feedback, voting, and just turning on your camera and showing a friendly face. If you're new to the EC or it's your first time watching Rocket Pitch, welcome. We love seeing new faces. That's what we're all about here. If you're not a member, don't worry, sign up is super easy. So we will drop a form in the chat and all you have to do is fill that out and you can become a member. So we want to open up the floor today for anyone who wants to pitch. So if you've been waiting to get your idea out there, now's your perfect time to show us what you've got. We have a couple spots open, so you can shoot me a message if you're interested in pitching and we'll work you into today's event. So before we get started, let's make sure you're eligible to vote, review how it works, and I'll give a thank you to our wonderful sponsors. So for voting, you're only eligible to vote if you're a member or a coach. So again, making sure that you're just signed up as a member, then we're going to drop a voting form in the chat and all you have to do is complete that before we start the feedback portion. Now that you can vote, let's review how it works. So participants will have 2 minutes to pitch their idea with the following 4 pillars. The first pillar is the problem, where great products solve great problems. Then it's the market, where you want to keep in mind the outreach, how many people are involved, affected. Then you want to go into the third pillar, which is current solutions. And this is where you evaluate the competition and explain why your solution might be better. And then lastly, going into your solution. So telling us your idea, what you've done so far, and what's to come. Lastly, we always like to talk a little bit at the end about delivery. So was the pitch delivered in an engaging way and effectively? Also keep in mind, this is a competition, so I will mute you if you go over that time. There will be a prize at the end for the winner, which is pretty cool. But what I love about Rocket Pitch is how it's really all about the entrepreneurship. This goes beyond the $100. Even if you're just an audience member today, take this opportunity to develop new ideas and learn from others. Speaking of learning from others, we have some awesome people here with us today. Ultimately, this can only happen with great people, our sponsors and our coaches. So first and foremost, thank you, Ferguson, for making this all possible. We would not be here today without them. Next, I want to give a notice to our coaches that came here today. So with us today, we have Mike Deschner, Michelle King, Chris McCoy, Jeff Rich, faculty champion Matt Aller, another coach, Brian Donahue. So thank you all for being here today. And I think we're good to go. So let's get ready to rock it. First up, we have Evan DeBuglio. He's a sophomore, he's a government major, and he will be speaking to us about EDB meets. So Evan, whenever you're ready to start, you can go ahead and I'll start your timer.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you. Hi everybody, my name is Evan DeBuglio. I'm a sophomore here at William & Mary. I'm also a student athlete here, and I'm here today to present to you guys EDB Meets. EDB Meets has started out as a little project kind of that I had started back home in Canada. And it kind of had its birth on Instagram on my social media page, and I was posting stories of smoked meats that I would create back home, and it got really great response from tons of friends and family, and lots of people that I didn't expect. But my foot traffic that I generated through the page has been insane. Went up 3,000% on just interactions and people looking and posting and sending things that I've created. But anyways, I decided back home over the winter break to kind of make this available to people since there was such a high demand for it. And I ran 2 specials, a brisket, like a Montreal smoked meat, and then I ran a jerk pork special as well. And in those 2 services, I ended up processing over 100 pounds of meat and ended up selling out everything within 3 hours of each service. So yeah, I was able to take orders and do that kind of trial run over there. And and was able to kind of generate a whole bunch of traffic towards my page and my business. And what I would like to do is kind of make this available to Williamsburg now. So one issue that I kind of noticed was that a lot of restaurants here in the local area close around 10 o'clock, and that there's not much available for food for students after that. And I would like to kind of cater to that special niche market and make EDB Meets available to everybody here. So with that said, That's EDB Meats. I've already kind of started getting it going on Uber Eats as well. I've registered as a restaurant and I already have a smoker down here. I've run a couple of trial runs already, and I'm looking to get an actual service run next week maybe. And yeah, and that's good.
All right. Thank you, Evan, for that pitch. That was great. So we actually have 2 more spots. I really want to encourage anyone to just go on the spot, give their idea. Only 2 minutes and you get a chance to win $100. What could be better? So if anyone wants to give out an idea, you can direct message me first, or you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and let me know.
So I'll go with one, I guess. Why not? So, I'm actually doing this for extra credit for the entrepreneurial class that I'm in right now as a graduate student. And one of the things that I've been creating with my husband are these rounds. They're actually 105 millimeter plastic rounds that we create as gifts, farewell gifts for the military. And the cool thing about them is that they open up and fit an alcohol bottle inside. And so the market for this is as a farewell gift or a thank you gift for individuals that are in the military that are transitioning from a post to a post. It's pretty easy to make on a 3D printer. It would be scalable with more printers. Right now I just have one and myself doing them. You paint them and then you give them to the individual that purchased them to customize with a plaque, or you can offer plaque services, just outsourcing through a local awards making company. When I sold them, they take about $15 of material to make, and I can sell them for between $100 and $150 each. I haven't put them out on the open market because I don't have the capacity to make them or the time, but it's one of my kind of side projects that I've been using to source out cool awards for the units that I've been in. I don't know where I am on time.
That was great. Thank you so much for that pitch, Bonnie. Yeah, so we have 1 more spot. If anyone wants to go ahead, I'll just give a last call for that, and if not, we can move on, but I'd love to, if anyone wants to go ahead. All right, well, those are 2 wonderful pitches today. I'm really glad with how they went. So thank you again for those pitches. This was a really great lineup. So now we're going to take a quick breather to allow time for you to complete your voting forms. When we come back, we'll move into our feedback portion. So just start to think of any questions or comments you may have for the pitchers. So yeah, I'm gonna give everyone a few minutes. Just remember that there's that voting form in the chat and just fill that out, and we'll come back in a few minutes. Welcome back. If you have not taken the chance to vote yet, I encourage you to do so now, because we will be closing the voting form in the next few minutes. I'm super excited to move on to our feedback portion, and we're going to be continuing with the format we used last week. So for those of you who were not here, I'm just going to take a few minutes to explain that. So this week I will call on coaches to speak for each pillar, and I also want to invite audience members and any other coaches to give some feedback. But first we will have the coaches I call on speak for each pillar, and then we can move on to the feedback submitted to me privately via chat. For the additional feedback, you can write any questions or comments you may have in the chat box, and I will read them out loud for you after the coaches speak. In the message, just make sure to include which pillar you're addressing so I can ask it at the appropriate time. Also, we will be opening up discussion for feedback on any of the pitches, so you can discuss either of the pitches at the same time. And so again, it's important to keep in mind of the good aspects of a good rocket pitch. So going back to those pillars, let's first address any feedback relating to the problem. So again, this all goes back to the idea that great products solve great problems. And for this pillar, I'd love to hear from Mike Desher.
Well, let's see. For the first picture, and I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to write your name down. I don't remember it. You were going very, very fast, and I never did get a grasp on what the problem was. So in a very simple manner, it's kind of like, what's the problem? How do I think I can solve it? How do I make money from it? And is it a good solution kind of thing? But the first thing is, tell us where the problem is. And the only problem that I saw was that you can't get barbecue after 10 o'clock at night. And yeah, that's probably true. Most of the guys have gone home because they start cooking at midnight for the next day. As for the second pitch, I don't think you described the problem, but I love the idea for the product. Again, there's more to say about that when we get to the other pillars. So, Sarah, I'll let you go to somebody else smarter than me.
Yeah, so any other takers on about the problem?
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah, go ahead.
So Evan and Bonnie, thank you both for pitching today and being courageous to do that. And so Evan, what is the first step? Yeah, you already know where I'm going with this. What's the first step in a presentation? What do you need to do? Remember?
You gotta have a good hook. You gotta have like a
yes.
yeah.
You gotta have a good hook. Come right out of the gate with that good hook. And so get my attention so then you can say what the problem is. And then I can say, okay, maybe you have me. But if I don't have that hook, if I'm not pulled in any way, and it's sort of what Mike was saying, I wrote it down, EDB Eats, and I was like, EDB, oh, your name, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. And then Meets, and I'm thinking MEETS. So if you give us a hook, then when you say the name, I can put into context of, oh, ED Meats as in the food, and now tell me the problem.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. And Bonnie, thank you for that too, with the problem, stating the problem. I like Mike said too, I like the idea, the concept, but I think identifying the problem a little bit more would help really seal the deal in that sense. And we'll get to the other pillars in a minute, and so we'll build off of that. But thank you for both of you going today.
And I can add a few thoughts too. So Evan, so it's an interesting idea. A couple of things from a presentation standpoint. One is obviously when you're going to present, you want to command the audience. So, turn off the phones and the kind of the background noise, and make sure that when you're presenting, you're really delivering to that group that's engaged with you and listening. So just keep that in mind as well. And I would agree with some of Michelle and Mike's points as well. I would say also that you've got more of a local market concept. And I would stress that, right? It makes a big difference if you're talking about a virtual business that could scale, internationally and doesn't need, sort of geographic proximity to work. But unless you're going to talk about how you would scale this concept and maybe get in not just, delivery through Uber Eats, but get some shelf space in grocery stores and things like that, that would maybe be a good idea also to pitch that you've got a bigger vision for where this could go. So you could lead into it with sort of structuring a growth plan where initially we're going to service the local market, people that, love smoked meats and can't get them as freely. So we're going to build some presence and awareness and some affinity for the product through the local market. You're right on a college campus. What a great way to generate demand for that. And then present the growth vision and say, we're going to prove the case and prove that the product is viable in the marketplace. Now that we've got testimonials and a core group of, sort of enthusiasts, we can talk about expansion of the concept if that's within your vision or your goal. But if you're trying to raise money or raise interest, these are the kinds of things you want to dangle out there and say, I could see pushing this product into shelf space at Wegmans and Target, grocery stores. And so think about how to present it, even if it's small scale, in a way that you could get folks interested in the potential expansion of the business concept.
100%. That's awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next pillar. So just a reminder, this is the market. So this is where you want to keep in mind the outreach, how many people are involved or affected. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris McCoy if he would like to speak on this.
Oh, I love it. I knew it was coming. I knew I was going to get markets again because I always get to hit people up on this one. Okay, so I actually really, really appreciate both of you and actually the style. Even though these were probably the least polished presentations, these were tremendously engaging, which I really enjoyed. And so from the point of view, Evan, you walked into it because I was a restaurant person for a number of years. So I have a keen understanding. And thinking about your problem, I think you're absolutely right. Late night, go for it. But thinking about the market size, that's where I'm not as convinced, because I've driven around Williamsburg at 7 o'clock at night, and we might as well have the street lights, the traffic lights blinking yellow sometimes. So I'd be interested to know, you have this possibility with a market that it's untapped because people haven't jumped on it, but you also have this possibility of a market just not there so people don't jump on it. So how do you differentiate those two?
I feel, so that's definitely true. After there's a certain point where Williamsburg kind of shuts down at nighttime. And yeah, just from like personal experience as well, like there's been a couple of nights, you know, you finish practice or something, right? And you're just hungry, you want like a piece of meat or something, and like the dining hall is closed and like nothing is kind of really open that you really want to eat, or at least is like, because there's like McDonald's here too, but like stuff like that, those chain restaurants that you don't really want, I guess, and you want something kind of that's home cooked and has a little bit of love in there. And yeah, like I think that itself would kind of have a little bit of a market in itself, because I don't know, like it's almost like a piece of home for somebody that's going to be having that as a meal, you know what I mean, like a late night meal. Because I feel like my food, especially when I cook, I feel like there definitely is a different level of love that I put into it, I guess, that you don't get from other restaurants and even CAF or any of the food options here on campus. And I feel like I can provide that, right? Also, the fact is, like, initially right now it's going to be kind of small scale because I only have one smoker and I'm balancing school and football, so it's kind of busy, and we're in season 2. So I was thinking about running kind of limited availability, which I also feel like would kind of drive sales as well, because it's like people are like, oh, have you heard about EDB Meats? Like he's only got like whatever 15 spots of, you know, servings available. Because that's kind of how I ran it back home, and I had tons and tons of surplus of orders like that I never ended up getting to because we just didn't have enough meat. And again, like I said, I processed like 100 pounds of meat, which for me was quite a bit, right, in 2 servings. So yeah, I feel like there definitely is a market for it, and I can definitely entertain, especially because it's a small college campus as well. I feel like people, like, word would travel well. The way I operate is like, if you have a good product, then people will find out about it regardless of where you are and how small you are, right? So yeah.
No, so I appreciate that, Evan. Just, I would think of a little about quantifying. And I think the other thing, this is just the general, you always want to be careful answering questions, not to walk yourself so far from the answer that you've kind of get yourself in trouble. So I think you added a lot there beyond what I was asking. And some of it made me feel better. Some of it made me less confident, but that's fine. I think quantifying that market's good. And think the same kind of thing to you, Bonnie. I think, you know, you did this very extemp, which again is really awesome. And I think, you know, both of you are in a situation where you can say, this is kind of like walking into a room and having somebody say, hey, what's this business like that you're telling me about? And in Bonnie's case, I don't know how many people are in that position. I would imagine in the military, you've got people moving all the time. So just, you know, thinking of an idea, how many people is that? How many people are we talking about here?
So military members on average move every 3 years. And if you're only looking at selling 1 to each officer in the Army, that would be 90,000 Army officers. But then you look at NCOs as well, that kind of thing. So you could expand it. It just depends on the, you know, budget for the gifts. And that's specifically only for the Army, but these kind of rounds would be applicable within the, you know, Air Force or Marine Corps as well. And then also just enthusiasts that like big weapon systems and that kind of thing. So I would say the initial market, just based on my access and knowledge, would be Army officers, which would be 90,000.
Well, that's great. That's great. And that's that, again, thinking about the kind of detail that gets people like me in the CPA world excited, it's being able to hear those sorts of numbers. So definitely you kind of think you identified the market well, but just the quantifying, I'm always big on quantifying. That's even when it's in the pillar. So I don't feel like I'm going too far to the edge to quantify that, but thank you for that. Y'all both did a great job. Thank you.
And I just want to add to Bonnie with the market. I mean, first of all, thank you for your service. And with the military, go beyond the military. You've got hunt clubs, gun clubs, you know, when they have ceremonies, when they have different events and awards and things like that. And if you can get them engraved, you know, you can personalize these things. So the market is bigger than the military.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh,
Bonnie, I'd like to throw in 2 cents about that also, because I'm in the promotional products business. So there are products like yours, but nothing like that I've ever seen that's big enough to put a wine bottle in. There are lots of things that are bullets and, you know, that kind of stuff for military, but nothing like that. And I think it's a great idea. And there are lots of places and ways you can take it and get it manufactured.
It also holds a shot glass in the top. So if you're not into wine, you can do hard alcohol.
Even better. So you have a much bigger market also, like Michelle said, than I think you really realize. There are a lot of government contract companies out there. I do business with quite a few of them. So good luck to you.
And I would agree too. I think you've got a really interesting gift concept there that you could take a lot further than just military affinity. So again, if you're pitching ideas like that, think about how to size that market potential, demonstrate market potential. You could throw out ideas like finding some specialty niche, websites. I'm thinking of like if anybody's familiar with Touch of Modern, which is a curated gift, products that are gifts for men. I mean, they kind of target men as a demographic, but there's military related groups. So you could propose as part of your pitch process to size the market and demonstrate demand, that part of your plan might be to not just do testing within the military, within your friends and family networks, but submit the product as a potential gift that could be included on a curated retail site to demonstrate broader market potential.
All right, I think it's a good point. Or Bonnie, if you'd like to respond to that, you can go ahead.
I was just saying, sorry, I was just a bit delayed because I was trying to write everything down.
Yeah, so we can move on to the third pillar now, which is current solutions. So it is important to evaluate competition and explain why your solution is better. So I would love it if Matt Aller could give some insight into this.
Oh, geez, I wasn't ready for that. So I'm not sure I'm the best person to respond to current market competition, but I will offer this, that the first thing I thought about, Bonnie, your presentation was, well, that's a good idea. And then the second thing I thought was, but how does she stop someone else from just making it themselves? And I don't mean that to say like, great, because I've got a 3D printer right here, and I'm just, give me a second here, I'm going to build one right now. But that's not like wildly out of the question. And so I'm always curious when someone presents an interesting idea or a novel approach to something, but that in its presented form, it's potentially highly replicable elsewhere. How can this evolve in terms of either a product or a service or a combination of both, or another iteration that I don't, or several that I'm not aware of, but how can that be, entirely uniquely something that only your project, your company, et cetera, is able to provide in the way that you provide it. So I would think that sort of that would be a kind of useful thing for you to kind of dig into. And Evan, on the sort of like polar opposite of it, I think my sense is that you kind of have that part of your idea kind of smoked into the product, like that's sort of the nature of kind of handcrafted artisan food, but it's not entirely clear why I would like buy that or subscribe to that, or how is that quantified. And I think that something more in that world would help separate you from potential competitors if you were able to articulate that some way.
I'd just like to see your thoughts on, so for the uniqueness for mine, I think part of it would be the reaction time. Of course, this isn't as scalable if I do this, but for me, for the people I've been able to do it for, if they have requests on, color or the plaque size or that kind of thing, I'm able to provide the full product to them and limit their need to source their own options for customization. And in looking at that as a scalable thing, getting a laser engraver was something that I looked at. It's a little pricey for this sort of more of a pastime right now, but a laser engraver in order to be able to further customize those myself.
Yeah, I think anything along that lines potentially explores a positive direction, and it remember that added value and kind of customer appeal, kind of bespoke appeal, as it were, need not be necessarily expensive. It just needs to be unique, so whether it's process or product, it just needs to be something that you can add to it that no one else can.
And Bonnie, what you might want to think about too in your solution here is to set you apart from others who could do this, is see if you can partner with a wine company or a distributor And then that way you can have a package deal, and that can help with that as well. And so they can get all of it together. Oh, I have to go to the ABC store now and get this, or I have to go and get that. And so even the shot glass could be something that could be as well. So think of how you can partner and put that all together.
All right, let's move into the fourth pillar, which is your solution. So this is all about the idea, what's been done so far, and what's to come. So I'm going to open it up to any coach who wants to talk about this one. So yeah.
So I could throw out some comments. So so both Evan and Bonnie, I thought you guys didn't talk a heck of a lot about sort of the logistics plan, I guess, for sourcing or manufacturing or volume. So I think you always want to present a snapshot of sort of how the product development is going to occur, some sort of understanding of the manufacturing components. I think it was brought up earlier about IP protection as well. So, Bonnie, you've got an interesting design. You might want to think about, getting some sort of intellectual protection for that product, as well as you start socializing it. It is easily copied. So, so maybe you can patent it or come up with some sort of copywriting. But definitely, both Evan and Bonnie, be sure that you cover that. And it doesn't have to be a lot in your pitch, but you want to demonstrate that you understand how to source materials, how to sort of develop product through manufacturing, and just present sort of an idea of how you plan to go about that. It could be overseas acquisition of product, or it could be manufacturing on a three-dimensional printer. But just make sure you give a taste of that when you're making your pitch.
Thank you.
I could throw something. I could throw something at Evan, because I told you I was a restaurant guy for a long time. So my thoughts, Evan, are just like supply chain sort of stuff. Like you were talking about doing this, I think, in Canada, and I think just how are you solution wise. It's not just about the output; it's about the input, especially if it's just meat that people are eating. And so I was thinking about that as a part of the solution. Would be good to say, how you're going to source and how you're going to make sure to be able to maintain that quality. And what is a smaller market where we don't have like specialty butchers and the like. And then the other piece would be, I love myself some smoked meats. I lived in Alabama for a long time. Like me and smoked meats have a very particular special relationship. But there also sometimes need compliments for that. So whether that be like go all out for the barbecue angle and do some kick butt sides, or whether it means doing some roasted beet salads or something. So I think those are parts of that solution that will help, I think, put a little context on it as well.
Okay. Hey, Evan, I think you got a great idea. I would have liked to let off with how hot barbecue is right now. I mean, it is a huge market out there. And also, if you're going to target the student as your population, you're going to have some lean months over the summertime. And you've got the Duke of Gloucester Street there with tons of people, and it's a food desert. It's really, really poor offerings on there. So I would also look at the students and then look at the Duke of Gloucester Street and all the people that come to Williamsburg. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And again, I'd lead with how hot this market is right now. I know that one of the leading barbecue people has just opened up in Leesburg, Virginia, and he came from somewhere in the Midwest. But so it is hot. I'd play up that angle of hot. And I have a question for Bonnie. Bonnie, I think you've got a really creative idea. I was really look at this. As the more that you talked about it, the more enthusiastic I got. And then you talked about the pricing, and you kind of lost me. That is steep pricing, but maybe I'm wrong. So I would like to have some justification for that pricing. Even with 150, 100, 150, I have sold X amount within 2 months or something like that, just to overcome that hurdle. But that was my initial pushback was, my God, that's expensive.
Yeah, I actually had to raise the price to stop more people from wanting it. So I started at 100 and I got so many offers right off the bat that I was like, okay, 150. And I continued to kind of fulfill my capacity along with my job as a side job. So I haven't really been able to explore the pricing too much just based on my own limitations with production capacity. But I've been able to sell all of them that I've posted it.
But that would be a great story. So weave that in somehow.
Yes, sir.
All right, lastly, we always like to talk about delivery. So just ensuring that the pitch was delivered effectively and engaging to the audience. And I know Michelle King always has great feedback for this one, so I'd love to invite her to speak.
Thanks, Sarah. So Evan, tell me what got you into smoking meat? What drew you to that?
It's a funny story. So I kind of my dad bought a smoker for the family. We got it for on sale because I work at it. So I forgot to mention this as well, but back home I work at a butcher shop as well. So that's kind of how I also got into the meat business, I guess. But he bought a smoker, and then I ended up just starting to cook for my family, but then posted it because it looked good. So I posted it on Instagram on my stories, which is only up for 24 hours as well. And then in the 24 hours, I would get like tons of responses and feedback from people. And then a lot of foot traffic, which was kind of surprising. Like people would share my stuff, right? Which was kind of crazy to see because who would think, you're just sharing your story of you cooking. But and then I kind of turned it into like a funny TV, like mini show of a couple like clips. And then people started sharing that and stuff. And it kind of grew from there. And people were like, you need to like either open up like a mini restaurant, pop-up shop, like start a YouTube channel or something. And then I was like, okay, I don't know how to edit things yet, so we're gonna start the pop-up shop, and then that's kind of how I got into it. But it kind of just started from me cooking for my family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and listening to you speak earlier, I was just taking down some notes, and I really do like your conversational delivery. You really do seem like, yeah, you can smoke some meat and just sit and back and talk and all that. So that's a great conversational tone. You definitely want to keep that in the future. But you also said it's like a piece of home away from home. I mean, what a great tagline, especially at William and Mary. You want that kind of home feel. You might be missing home, but here you get a good meal, a home cooked meal in that sense. And so a piece of home away from home. But I did like your delivery and what was said earlier, just turn off your phones and make sure, or if it was your roommate, I don't know. But, yeah, so make sure you're in the moment with us and continue to be engaged. And sometimes with Zoom, it's hard to like, where do I look? But it's okay to look around and to be engaged with that. So thank you for that. And Bonnie, yes, I love that you took that risk and went today. You're like, when Sarah said, anybody else? You're like, I guess I'll go. But yeah, just even with that confidence, just go for it. And I think with thinking of the pillars, and if you haven't been to a rocket pitch before, it's always good to show up and go to them, but go ahead and look online, watch a few clips, see how they're done, see how previous winners have done it. And then you can not only make sure you have the organization, but your personality and will come through your delivery, so you're more dynamic. But both of you, thank you for going today.
Thank you, yes.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
Definitely will look at what the pillars are next time before I brief.
I'm going to call on Matt Aller. I see a hand raised.
If I could just build on what Dr. King just said for a second, so in my non-rocket pitch world, I'm a theater designer, so I'm always looking at like props and costumes and things, and recognizing that these are both kind of either first runs or sure I'll give it a try runs, right? I want to just kind of comment on the sort of presentation of both ideas for a second. So Bonnie, for me, it's all about the props. Like your product is what sells this. So like without showing us that, honestly, like you would have to have been like the Shakespeare of description. Whereas by showing us the functionality of your product, that seems just immensely important. So as you continue this, I would encourage you to think about, what are ways that you can continue to demonstrate the ongoing flexible functionality of your product and the ideas that are associated with it. So, I just, Evan, I'm initially, a lot of our rocket pitches have been folks kind of in, kind of very traditional business clothing and looking pretty, and I'll tell you, when before you started, I thought, okay, here we go. But as second you started talking about what your business idea was, I thought, absolutely, where's his leather apron? Or something like that. Like like if you had showed up in like a grease stained, meat covered, I'm absolutely serious, butcher apron, I think it would have even been better. Like I encourage you to think, hey, if the authenticity and the intention behind your product and service is what really is where the heart is, and I think that's where you're headed, I would love to see how you can push that and communicate that visually and verbally to your audiences.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that though. It's funny. I was telling Professor King before, I just found out about this rocket pitch like maybe 40 minutes ago. And my friend was like, hey, because I've been telling my friends that I'm kind of gonna get this business going here. And they're like, you need to like just shoot this, give it a try and pitch it to them. And I was like, well, okay, let's see. So I was like, we just had lunch like maybe 20 minutes ago, and boom, boom, boom. I was like, let's register and go. So I like spent the last little bit trying to get the pitch together and get it going. So yeah, no, 100% though. I agree.
Chris McCoy, I see you have a hand. You can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think Michelle had a great point earlier about starting with a hook. And I absolutely agree with that, but it's also, kind of end with the close. And I think with both you kind of just trailed off at the end. And I know it's extemp, but even thinking in an extemp situation, like you don't want to just sort of say, well, here we go. I guess that's it. It's like, if nothing else, just thank you all for listening, and like get out of there, and so just think about that. And I think absolutely with both of you, I think with Bonnie, like Matt had said, paint that thing, make it look like $1 million and it'll go crazy. And Evan, I agree with what Matt said. Just go buy one of those shirts that you can get custom print, throw your logo on it, and you'd be awesome. It would look perfect. So, but thank you both. Just think about that. What are you going to leave people with? It doesn't have to be a cliche. It could just be a simple thank you, stop talking. And that's good too. But thank you both for presenting.
All right. Thank you everyone for that great feedback. I know you're all anxious to hear the results of the competition, but before we do so, I just want to mention a few things. So we're going to drop a check-in form in the chat. So if you want to earn points for liftoff, you can fill that out today just to get counted for that. I also want to remind everyone that we have our podcast on Tuesdays. We have our Alumni Founder Series every other Thursday at 5:30. Looking forward to that. And of course, Rocket Pitch every Friday at 2 p.m. We had a great turnout today, so I really hope to keep that going in the following weeks. And I still want to encourage everyone to check out our Discord if you haven't already. It's a great way to continue the conversation, and there's a lot of cool features on that. I've been really enjoying getting acclimated to Discord, and we actually had on Tuesday a little event on Discord called Rocket Connect, where it was more of a chill environment where people were able to come on and share their ideas and ask questions, and it was more a peer-to-peer type discussion. So look out for that on Tuesdays as well. It was a really great time, and I encourage you guys all to check it out. Also going into liftoff with some game leaderboard and updates. In terms of individual points, I'm going to list out the leaderboard. So from on top, we have Taylor Robertson, then Pietro Marino, Augustin O'Connell, Yijing Li, and then Abdi Hassan. And then going into house rankings, in first we have Columba, then we have Lyra, then we have Aquila, and then we have Gemini. So really exciting stuff. The points are racking up, and it's really exciting to watch everything unfold this semester. So yeah, now that what you've all been waiting for, the winner of Rocket Pitch today is Bonnie Lang. Congratulations. And Bonnie, just make sure to stick around so we can give you your prize at the end. But if you enjoyed today and you have an idea, Rocket Pitch is the perfect opportunity to share it and get great feedback. Thanks for joining us today, and see you all next week to launch into some more brilliant ideas. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.